So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Roswell in the 21st century is a detailed re-examination of the Roswell UFO crash case. I have studied the evidence for more than 30 years, and I now put that evidence under a microscope in a cold case examination of the facts. These facts might not please everyone. They are based on my comprehensive investigation that took years to complete, but they do lead to the conclusion that whatever fell was not built on Earth. The Best of Project Blue Book is based on the 22-year-long investigation conducted by the Air Force. But the book goes far beyond that, bringing in evidence that was uncovered long after Project Blue Book was ordered terminated. Using facts that were unavailable to the Air Force investigators, I was able to prove that the Air Force manipulated the data and drew unrealistic conclusions about the UFO sightings reported to them. My different perspective shows there was more to Project Blue Book than even the Air Force knew. Both books are available at Amazon.com.
Join Patty Conklin and Healing Within Radio each week. More than entertainment, Healing Within offers educational, useful tools for everyday life. Listen for help overcoming fear, anxiety, and depression. Patty knows about eliminating cancer, MS, dementia, Parkinson's, and a host of illnesses that we face every day. Life can be good. Life is good. All you need are simple tools to start changing your life. Start right now by visiting pattyconklin.com, PATTICONKLIN. No matter where you are in the world, you can work with Patty through Skype, phone, or in person, visiting one of her retreats in Georgia. Visit pattyconklin.com today or call our offices at 404-474-0086. That's pattyconklin.com or call 404-474-0086.
Hi everyone, this is Patty Conklin and Healing Within with my guest, Dr. Laurie Nadel. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of the show. I know Dr. Laurie has been filling in for me for a few weeks, but now she's back on as a guest, and I'm so thankful that she's with me because we've had a couple of really tough weeks since I talked to you last with the coronavirus, the novel corona COVID-19, I guess. We've got all sorts of names for it, but we've had a lot of different things taking place, and really want to look at what is taking place, what's happening, and from Laurie's area of expertise and trauma and stress and what's happening in New York City, because that's where she is. And Laurie, welcome to the show as always. And talk to me a little bit about what you and your guests have been talking about and where we are today versus where we were 3 weeks ago.
Well, Patty, thank you so much for inviting me to guest host for you. I think it was really, really helpful for people, I hope, to listen, especially to Dr. George Everly, who works with first responders who are coming off very difficult shifts where they're dealing with life and death situations where they feel overwhelmed and helpless. And we talked a lot about the importance of debriefing and speaking to somebody when you are feeling what we call acute stress, What the difference between a few weeks ago and now is that people have been kind of living in this kind of confinement / quarantine situation, and we're now rolling into our second month. And as Governor Andrew Cuomo said, as we get into the second month, people are starting to feel angry. They're starting to feel isolated. We're starting to see anxiety, depression, and the other symptoms of acute stress, which is not everyday stress. It's interesting because April is Stress Awareness Month. And
is it
normally
really?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
And the irony, of course, is that usually we would be talking about, the stress of paying bills or the stress of relationships or getting your kid to school or getting ready for the summer and, going on vacations and, expenses. But now we're talking about acute stress, which is almost identical to post-traumatic stress. And the symptoms of acute stress can be, again, a severe anxiety, a feeling of dread, like the other shoe is going to drop, sensations of nausea, dizziness, headache. Your blood pressure may go up. Your heart may start racing. You may find it difficult to sleep or to eat. There can be a sense of panic, flashbacks where you are kind of re-experiencing the news, or if somebody has died suddenly, you may find that you're re-experiencing that traumatic grief. Sudden, unexpected loss of life is what produces acute stress. And it leads us to, gives us a feeling of helplessness and horror because we have just come face to face with a sudden, violent loss of life. And we can get it. We can get it from watching TV. We can get it from being online. It is called indirect exposure, or VT, for vicarious traumatization. And so we have a population that 44 million people that we know of are reported struggling with post-traumatic stress, according to the National Institutes of Health. And that makes it a national mental health epidemic. So on top of that, we now have, 343 million people who have been traumatized by the potential of suddenly getting sick, and our healthcare system, which is completely broken, having to live in isolation, loss of jobs, loss of income, loss of businesses, livelihood, the sense of normal having been ripped away. Literally, the path that you thought you were walking on a few weeks ago is no longer there. Yeah. And so there's a feeling of being ungrounded. And these are all trauma reactions. And trauma is not a bad hair day. Trauma means that we're going mano a mano with our own mortality and with facing life and death. And we're looking at thousands of people, innocent people, who, some of them young and healthy, they get sick and they die very quickly. It's very mysterious. It has doctors puzzled. And we don't really know what's going on, and we get the feeling that nobody in charge knows what's going on. So there's nothing to hold on to. Yeah. And that's really terrifying for people. Yeah. And that's normal. I used to say to people, you're a normal person having normal reactions to an abnormal situation.
Right. I mean, because, the more we learn about the virus, the more we learn about the situation that we're in terms of just, walking past someone who's got droplets or air droplets and being able to do community spread that way. I mean, it's in some ways terrifying that something so innocuous, not seeing it, invisible, could take your life. And yet, I mean, here in Georgia, I don't know where things are in New York, but of course I'm an upstate girl. I don't think there's much of an outbreak or as much of an outbreak. But where I am here in Georgia, we had the first cluster right where I am. And it's amazing to me on how many people just aren't even aware of the fact that they are going to, they need to be safe. And I can drive by here, at the lake or whatever, and people are in huge groups sitting out sunning themselves. And it's like, why? So some people are getting absolute phobias over this, and some people aren't being affected at all, and just aren't taking it seriously. And so it just seems like we have these two groups that are polarized and not paying attention and not doing what they need to be doing.
Well, I think that a lot of people are in denial, especially, what they show on the news are the New York City and Chicago and New Orleans hospitals. And I would think that anybody who's not in an urban area is probably easy to kind of deflect it or to say it's not going to happen here.
Right. Well, we had a situation in Georgia last week where our governor declared a stay at home, and yet opened up the beaches at Tybee Island. And Tybee Island City Council had closed the beaches on March 20th, and the governor overrode it. Say people need to be able to go to the water and socialize and get out, get some fresh air, exercise, practice social distancing, and city council members, I think rightly so, were furious that they had closed down the beaches to keep their area safe, and all of a sudden the governor's overriding them. And I just wonder, where is our leadership coming from? I mean, do we have leadership? Do we have anybody that people will really listen to, or that we have one funnel of information coming through? It just seems like part of the issue is governors are being left to make their own decisions.
Right. I think it's really bringing up kind of in high relief some of the issues that the founding fathers had tried to outline or delineate in the Constitution, which has to do with the relationship between the federal government and the states themselves. Right. And I think you have a really strange hybrid in the current leadership, because on the one hand, they campaigned as Republicans and not wanting to be, big government and,
right.
and not wanting to do, massive spending bills the way those Democrats do. And
right.
now, we have, $3 trillion to $280 billion more dollars that are going to be printed out of thin air to compensate for a crisis that nobody is in charge of.
Right. And no one's getting any clear directive of. I mean, it just seems like, in the old days, Republicans were all for, not government not getting involved,
right.
not big spending and so forth. And I guess we're just putting a different label on a different name. But I think that it's important to look at, how the everyday person is being affected. I don't know about you, but I've already lost 5 individuals that I know to COVID, and just here in town, a little 5-year-old girl, recovered. So awesome. Well, she recovered, but she's got 80% lung damage, and she's only 5. And so she's going to have that for a long period of time. And talking to my son, I finally got a hold of him in Texas because I hadn't talked to him the whole month, and it was his birthday on Sunday. And I finally got a chance to talk to him and found out that, sure enough, he had it as well. Finally went to the hospital when he, every third breath, really couldn't breathe. And he was pretty much through it, but also has some lung damage. So we'll talk about the traumas and how people can look at this and what acute trauma really is versus stress and trauma, because there is a difference. So folks, it's Patty Conklin and Dr. Laurie Nadel, and we will be back with you in just a few minutes, and see you in a minute.
Are you looking for psychic services that empower as well as provide accurate information? Jenny is a third-generation psychic with extensive esoteric training. A practicing professional intuitive for over 30 years, her accuracy is astounding. While most psychics can read what will happen to you if you don't change directions, Jenny understands the future is subjective. While there is a river of time we all traverse, that river has many waves, eddies, currents, and tributaries from which to choose. With Jenny as your guide, you can explore the many possible outcomes in the river of time and navigate your course to the one of your liking. Take control of your future. Book your life-changing session with Jenny today at www.gen-e.net. That's www.gen-e.net.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Hi, everyone. It's Patty Conklin and Dr. Laurie Nadel talking about acute trauma, acute stress. When does the string get too thin for people to cope and to handle? You know, I think back on other traumas that we've experienced, be it 9/11, be it Parkland, be it Columbine. I mean, we can go back through the last, 100 years or so of traumas. And the one that the thing that feels different to me about this one is that it's so invisible. We're talking about this talking on the news about this being a 9/11 week or a Pearl Harbor week. The challenge that I have in looking at it is we already have more deaths than the 9/11, and yet some people are so phobic that they're staying away from everything. Some people are practicing good social distancing. And some people are just not taking it seriously. They still consider it to be a hoax. So at what point do the people on the spectrum of terrified to leave their homes, terrified of being around other people and so forth, and then, the people in the middle, the people who are concerned, but, are dealing with everyday life, at what point does that start to strain to the point where you have lifelong trauma associated with this? Or has it already happened?
Well, I think you touched on something at the beginning where the Surgeon General has been trying to give us metaphors to kind of compare this to something.
Mm-hmm.
They've talked about Pearl Harbor and they've talked about 9/11, and those were events that affected our consciousness historically and permanently. That's like an imprint where you remember before Pearl Harbor or after Pearl Harbor or since 9/11. And this is going to be an imprint in not just the American psyche, but the human psyche. Where were you before the plague hit, and where were you during, and when you came out of it, how has it affected you long term? It will affect everyone long term, because we went from feeling basically safe in our own skin to feeling unsafe in our own skin. And that is really one of the characteristics of living with acute stress or post-traumatic stress. You really feel that there's something cellular that doesn't feel safe anymore. And this is not an event in the sense that even World War II was an event or 9/11 was an event. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end in terms of chronology. This is completely open-ended. Last night, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel said, this is not going back to normal until we have a safe universal vaccine. We're going to be living with this off and on for the next 18 months. There will be more periods of quarantine. We never go, people say, when are we going to go back? And the answer is we never go back.
Right.
And we carry the imprint with us. And, when you're asking about, how does it affect people, about a third of people, when something traumatic happens to them directly, a third of people will kind of recover sufficiently to function, but from time to time they may get triggered by a news story, or if they lose somebody, or they hear about a friend of a friend who has the illness, they may get re-triggered. A third of people, and I'm kind of in this third, will look at that life and death event or that moment as something that was a catalyst for transformation and kind of opened the way to lead a more meaningful and purposeful life. Mm-hmm. And a third of people will never recover. They will remain paralyzed or phobic. We had many people, and I've worked with many people who never got on the subway again, could never go back to Lower Manhattan again, had to leave the city, moved out to the country, never wanted to speak about it again. And it affects different people differently. But what we've known from people who are experts in the field is that it affects about a third, and a third. And I think that time will tell what the lasting impact of this is going to be on our collective psyche.
Yeah. So, Laurie, is there an age grouping that is more affected lifelong? Does it even quantify by age, or is that just not germane? I mean, just people's life history will make. Will help them either move into feeling safe again, or will keep them in a stress trauma place.
I don't think we know in terms of this one yet, because it's affecting billions of people around the world. So I don't think that you kind of need to step back and look at this a few years from now. I know that young people or people in their 30s and 40s with no history of illness are probably the most freaked out by now, because it can hit at random and it can kill people very quickly who were healthy. Right. Then you have, somebody like myself, 72, with pre-existing lung disease from exposure to dust from the World Trade Center. And what it's done for me is make me much more vigilant about self-care, both in terms of prevention. And I can talk about a homeopathic protocol that so far I have been COVID-free, and I'm a big believer. I'm certified in clinical diploma in clinical homeopathy. So it's something that I really believe is very helpful, especially for prevention but also for treatment where there are no conventional medicines that work or that work safely.
Right.
So I also have been very much aware that self-care is critically important. And I think if there's any kind of one of the silver linings of this event is that it's teaching people, especially people in my age group and with a pre-existing condition, we're being told, do not go to the hospital. If my doctor told me, if you go to the hospital because you cannot breathe, you will not be given a ventilator.
Right.
So we have a very interesting situation here for people, baby boomers, because we have effectively been triaged out of the medical system and not being worthy of having our life saved in the event that we cannot breathe and we have to go into a hospital situation. Unlikely that we would be given, that we would be intubated. Now, I have a very clear do not intubate order, which was signed by my doctor, which was done, a while ago, because I don't want to be hooked up to machines, and 66% of people who are intubated don't make it anyway.
Right.
And so what are you going to do if you get sick becomes the critical question. If you have to take care of yourself at home, what do you need to have on hand? And, I cannot emphasize strongly enough that if you can qualify for a CPAP machine or an oxygen concentrator, if you can get a prescription from your doctor for one, if you can, if you have a business, if you're self-employed, you can order an oxygen concentrator, a refurbished one online, and you can have it in your home because the CDC has certified that as a backup for ventilators.
Yeah.
They're not that difficult to get.
An oxygenator? Is that what you're saying?
An oxygen concentrator. It's called an oxygen concentrator, and you can get them refurbished, and they're a few $100s. Some places require a doctor's prescription, but if you have a small business or you say you need it for your office, you should be able to get one without a doctor's prescription. Try not to order them from China or Asia because they can't. There are no planes flying out, so they cannot ship them.
Right, they can't ship them. I mean, that's go back to what we were talking about a little bit ago. Is the fact that we baby boomers, I have the same information given to me. Don't go to the hospital. One of the, you were guest hosting for me because I was going to be taking a trip to Israel and going in, from Atlanta to London to Ireland to Tel Aviv to Turkey to Tel Aviv to Jordan back home. Wow. And my doctor was just like, you have bronchitis and no, you're not going to go. And at this point, the trip hadn't been canceled yet, but she said, you definitely are in your yearly, had bronchitis for 18 years in a row. So you're in your chronic bronchitis stage and no, you're not going to go. And of course, right before I left, the trip was canceled anyways, because Israel had shut down so many of the sites we were going to see. We're going to do it again in October. We're going to see if we can do the tour then. So hopefully I'll be able to come back and report on that. But one of the things that was interesting for me was in having the bronchitis, one of my daughter-in-laws is a pharmacist. And they weren't being given any PPEs. They weren't giving any protective assistance at all. And so, she put her foot down and said, we are not getting around your mother or your, the babies, or bring them over. And we're going to self-quarantine her, whether she likes it or not. And so they have, and I've agreed with it because she didn't know what she could possibly be carrying home to the kids or my son, and then on to me with my lungs being compromised. So let's talk about that on the other side, about how lonely it gets when we are self-quarantining. So folks, it's Patty Conklin and Dr. Laurie Nadel, and we will be back with you in just a moment. Stay tuned.
How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. Audience, if you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Hi everyone, it's Patty Conklin and Healing Within with my guest and my guest co-host, Dr. Laurie Nadel, who did such a wonderful job while I was supposed to be on a beautiful world tour of studying Mary Magdalene and going to the Middle East, and instead I was in bed with bronchitis while she did the show for me. So again, thank you so much for jumping in and taking over, and you know, I'm glad you did. This situation that we're in right now. I know we're kind of timelining this show, but it's important that we do that in terms of the coronavirus. But you know, I get really sad when I'm seeing folks in nursing homes or people in the hospital who are passing away and loved ones can't be with them. Because they're dying of COVID, and just the average person. I mean, I know how much it has affected me not being with my children and grandchildren and being able to see them. And, you know, typically when kids are out of school, I take care of them. My other daughter-in-law said, nope, I'm taking care of all the kids because we're not going to let any of us get around you. And I understand why, obviously, logically, but there's a loneliness that seeps in that just seems like it's even more, and not more, but it's egregious in and of itself that self-quarantining when you've got someone who's working on the front line in this devastating time, who wants to make sure that you're staying safe. One of the things that I'm in my little cabin, my little lake cabin, and I've been here for the last 3 weeks because my big house is 2 miles from the hospital here in town, and I gave it over to the hospital so that ICU nurses and ER nurses, doctors, whoever wants to self-quarantine from their family has a safe place to go. And since they work together and are together and so forth, it's interesting because they even wear their masks inside the house, even with each other, until they go to their own bedrooms. So, kind of my way of being able to help them self-quarantine from their families. But are you hearing a lot about depression increasing? I know of 3 people who have committed suicide just in the last 2 weeks because of germaphobes and depression of being alone. Are we getting any numbers yet, or is it too early to tell?
Well, I've seen that the numbers on domestic violence are increasing. I haven't seen, and I'm sorry for your losses. I haven't heard of any suicides yet. I think that the dark side of this is going to start showing up pretty soon in the news media once they kind of stop focusing on the body count aspect and the medical crisis aspect. Loneliness, and it's more complicated than that, because I think that when our normal life routines and patterns and our social connections are kind of ripped away from us, and we find ourselves alone, and we're not, solitary creatures by nature. You're used to having your family around. We're used to meeting with people for our work, or we have people that we go walking with, or we have coffee with people, and all that whole social fabric is suddenly ripped away, and we come face to face with what I call 3 elephants. And the 3 elephants are the loss of control, the loss of safety, and the loss of identity. And the loss of identity is, I think, what drives people to suicide, because it's, who am I? If I'm here all alone and nobody knows that I'm here and nobody cares that I'm here, and what happens if I die alone, and I'm going to die alone anyway, so I might as well take my own life, or whatever that spiral of depressive thinking is. And you don't have anybody to bounce it off, or you're somebody who doesn't reach out to people because you don't want to burden people. But the most important thing, and I'm so glad that we have Zoom, and we have WhatsApp and Skype, we have all kinds of visual media, and even if you just prefer talking on the phone, it's really important to reach out to people and say, I'm lonely. Even if you call a suicide hotline and say, I can't stand it anymore, there's no point in living, talk to somebody. Yeah. Because it's the people who don't say anything who are the ones who successfully suicide. Yeah. People who are dealing with addictions, relapsing is, I imagine, very high right now. Isolation is, it's very tough. I lived in solitary for a couple of years because I was working on my book, The 5 Gifts, Discovering Hope, Healing, and Strength When Disaster Strikes. And by the end of and I like to write, and I'm used to being, spending long periods of time by myself. But by the end of that period, I thought, I hate this. I never want to do this again. The isolation and I was in an absolutely magically beautiful spot. But I think isolation literally can be deadly, and it can produce the kind of stress that will depress the immune system. So that's another danger.
Yeah. I know that in being out here. I mean, I've got a beautiful view, and I'm an introvert. Believe it or not, folks, I'm an introvert. When I'm not working, I'm an introvert. I like being alone. I'm used to being alone, and I find peace and calm in it. But this is a different type of aloneness. Of yes, the kids are checking in, and everybody's making sure I'm okay and dropping off groceries and that kind of stuff. But I think that I haven't been in a grocery store in the last 3 weeks. I haven't gone to that space, not because I'm fearful, and I really want to make that clear for people. You can be cautious. You don't need to be fearful. Fearful continues to suppress your immune system, and you can get sick faster. So let's not go into fear, but let's stay in a place of awareness and caution. Given my lung situation, I'm not going to go waltzing into a grocery store. But I'm not fearful if I needed it. If the boys weren't around, right, I would go in the grocery store. But I think it's important, and this is the one situation that I dealt with 2 weeks ago with a client who has a severe phobia of germs. And so we were on the phone. We were on the phone, and actually got suicide hotline on the phone as well, and gave it about 5 hours of talking, and suicide hotline and I both felt like we had him in a good space, and that he understood and he was calm and so forth. And he still took his life an hour later.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And so, I think that it's really important for people to be aware of, yes, you need to be cautious. You need to take your precautions. If you're healthy and so forth, and they're suggesting wearing face masks now, whatever it is, or like you said, get the oxygen. I gotta write that down.
It's a concentrator.
Oxygen
concentrator.
Get something if you can, if you need to. But I think it's important for people to be aware of what is your emotional status. You can be aware, you can be cautious, you can be concerned, but please attempt to stay out of fear. And the more news you watch, sometimes the more wound up you get and so forth. We started, I've got some good friends that are scattered across the country. And so they suggested that every Sunday night we do Vocktails. That we do Zoom, and we have cocktails, and we just sit and visit and have our cocktails, and each in our own space. And I love the idea because we're socializing, and yet we're staying at home. And thank goodness for that technology that we have today of being able to use Zoom or use Skype or whatever the modality is to be able to have that. We've also brought back Wednesday evening energy adjustments. So every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we're doing an hour, and either I'm leading the first half hour, or one of my colleagues, Bonnie Rawls, is doing a half hour, and then the second half hour is by Faye Henry doing gongs. So you get color works and you get tone works in the hour, and you can stay on the full hour if you'd like to. But just working on rebuilding the immune system and decreasing fear, and just helping people through this time period. So folks, remember that for Wednesday evenings. And Laurie,
where do we sign up for that? Where do we sign up for?
So if you just go to pattyconklin.com at 7:00 and go into, if you go pattyconklin.com/live. The video player will come up, and you may have to refresh it a few times, but video player will come up and it'll be live video.
Awesome. And, that is fantastic.
So just pattyconklin.com/live, and people can just join us at 7 p.m. East Coast time. So we're coming back with that because we really felt like it was a time where people needed to be able to tune in and have that time with us to meditate and calm down and so forth. Because, it is something that I think will ebb and flow over the next 18 months. I'm hoping that we don't see the death rate as high as it is. I think people will be more watchful without being fearful that that's taking place.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
What's making?
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
Hi, everyone. It's Patty Conklin and Healing Within with my guest, Dr. Laurie Nadel. And Laurie, I don't have your book sitting in front of me, so would you please give me the title of the 5 gifts, the full title?
It's called The 5 Gifts, Discovering Hope, Healing, and Strength When Disaster Strikes. It has a foreword by Dan Rather, who has been my good friend and teacher and writing mentor for many years. And what's important about the book is that I look at how people in other cultures and spiritual traditions, what tools do they use, what kind of mindset and values do they have that helps them cope with long periods of adversity and hardship, which in our lifetime in this country, we've been spared until now. We've been spared war. We've been spared famine. Yes, we've had, terrorist attacks in this country. Now we're having an uptick in natural disasters. But we've never gone through something like this, which is really more of like a plague or, a disease that's killing indiscriminately. And the 5 gifts that came to me in meditation soon after I lost my home to Hurricane Sandy, those 5 gifts are humility, which is the gift and the grace to accept that there are forces greater than we are, and that in any human lifetime there are going to be cycles of hardship and cycles of fun and cycles of famine and cycles of prosperity. And it's not because you didn't visualize or because you attracted it with your negative thinking. It's just part of being human. And humility gives us the grace to accept that there are things that happen that are greater than us that we don't understand.
Yeah.
Patience is what I call the unbearable gift. We're an impatient culture, and we want this to go away now, and we want everything to go back to the way it was, a month ago or 6 weeks ago, and everybody says, when are we going to get our normal back? And patience is the gift that helps us endure when the pain goes on longer than we think that it should. And when we find ourselves triggered a year from now, 2 years from now, it can be an anniversary, it can be something, it can be a song, it can be a smell. Suddenly we can be overwhelmed with a sudden upsurge of grief. Patience is the gift that lets us just accept that wounds heal in their own time, in their own way. And there's no magic cure, and there's no timetable. Patience is what lets people in other parts of the world deal with immense suffering, like the genocide in Rwanda or the tsunami in Thailand.
Right.
And it's a great gift. It's the gift that nobody wants, but it's the gift that we need now. Empathy is the feel-good gift, and we see it now, and there's a tremendous outpouring, and we have an incredible community of what I call empathy warriors, our doctors, our nurses, our first responders who walk into danger every day. But what happens after a few months is empathy in the community starts to die down, and people kind of revert into their own individual shells and their own individual lives. And what we need to recover from a traumatic event, because it takes 3 to 5 years to really process something of this magnitude. And we need empathy, sustainable empathy. Very often when I start working with people, it's 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years after the event itself.
Yeah.
So we need sustainable empathy for the long haul. The fourth gift is forgiveness. And when I think about forgiveness, I think about forgiving, because forgiveness is not a light switch. It's an active process. And we need to be forgiving of ourselves because we couldn't prevent this from happening. We need to be forgiving of God because we don't understand what the bigger plan is here. And being forgiving will help to ease a lot of the anger and frustration that we're feeling now. And finally, the final gift is growth. And as bioorganisms, we are growing all the time, whether we want to or not. But with the gift of post-traumatic growth, we will look back on this event and say, I wish I'd never gone through it, and I would never wish it on anyone, but I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't learned what I learned from going through that particular hardship. And it kind of is summed up in this beautiful Hindu proverb, which is, even the withered branch grows again, and the sunken moon returns. Wise ones who ponder this are not troubled in adversity. And everything in life is a cycle, and what we're going through now is a cycle, and it will eventually come to an end, and there will be rebirth and renewal and regrowth, because creativity and healing are the most powerful forces in the universe. And there's, as Ecclesiastes, there's a time to born and a time to die and a time to grieve and a time to celebrate.
Right.
And so I ask everybody listening to start a happiness jar. Get a jar and write happiness on it. And every day, just notice one tiny moment of sparkle. Somebody smiles at you. You had a great walk with your dog. You spoke to a friend. Somebody made eye contact. Your garden is blooming. You had a nice meditation. You made some nice food for yourself. And anything that makes you happy or brings a smile to your heart, just write it on a piece of paper and put it in the happiness jar. And after a month, they usually tell you after a year, but we need happiness. We need to boost our happiness levels on a regular basis. So wait 3 or 4 weeks empty out the jar, and then maybe get on Zoom or Skype with your friend, and each of you read out the things that make you happy. Empty your happiness jar and read everything that was in your happiness jar, and you'll notice that it really makes that moment sparkle, and it really lifts your spirits.
Yeah.
And
Great
put everything
idea.
back in the happiness jar, and the happiness jar, and then just keep adding more pieces of paper to your happiness jar until you'll find very quickly that your life is filled with moments of happiness that you hadn't really paid attention to before.
Right.
This is a time that's making us needing to be more mindful of that we're walking a very fine balance between life and death, but we're walking that balance every day, all the time. We're just not aware of it.
Right.
And when we become aware of it, we can celebrate those moments of happiness with deeper joy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's a great way for people to keep a, take a few minutes each day and look at the happy. And it's a good time, folks, for you. Two things. Join us on our Energy Adjustment Wednesday nights and go get Dr. Laurie's book, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, I'm assuming, and get her book, get it downloaded, go buy it, whatever. I guess bookstores are probably closed at this point.
Yeah.
But you can download it and start reading, because I agree with you. It is going to be a time where we're going to need to look ahead and kind of reflect on this time period. I want to touch on, before we end, I want to touch on first frontliners, because I know that the nurses that are staying in my home are so exhausted and miss their families so much. And it seems like every single death in the hospital, when they work so hard and so many hours to keep them going, keep individuals going, and they pass. The trauma that I see just in the last 3 weeks of texting with them or talking to them is dramatic. And I'm wondering about the frontliners, of just how can people help them come out, not necessarily come out of the trauma, but what support can we give them other than material things? I mean, we're providing food and we're providing a home and so forth at PCI. But we've got a minute or so left. How can individuals help the frontliners in their community?
I think simply saying thanks. Every time you see someone in the cities, at 7 o'clock, people go out on their balconies or out in the street, and they clap and they cheer for the first responders, for the fire departments. If you are, as I spoke to you, Patty, I'd like to offer complimentary sessions to using the tools that were developed, critical incident tools that we used for first responders at Parkland. Yeah. I have emotional first aid tools that can help take stress away within seconds, that they can use on the floor when they're with patients, that we can use with our families. And if you're listening, also, if you go to my website, you can sign up for a complimentary 15-minute session that I'm offering. It's laurienadel.com. But Patty, I've spoken to you. I'd love to be able to offer these tools that have been developed for first responders on the front line to anyone whom you're housing. And make that available also to hospital staff, and we can talk about how best to do that. But just say thank you. Just keep saying sending those thanks out to the universe. And sending thanks when you walk past a hospital or see someone in a uniform. Just say thank you. It means the world to those who are working. Yeah,
know that they're out there helping us. Folks, I just take care of yourself. Practice social distancing. I'd done a little video a couple of weeks ago that we're all in this together. Stay safe. Take the precautions at home in terms of what you feel is best for homeopathics and herbs and so forth to help yourself stay healthy. But for all of you out there listening, thank you so much for being a part of today's show. Dr. Laurie, thank you so much for giving us so much great information. And folks, I hope I see you on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m., pattyconklin.com. Thank you so much. Patty Conklin, Dr. Laurie Nadel, Healing Within. See you next time.